Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. If you're a focused learner looking to figure out how to streamline the way your business operates and scales, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, our mission is to completely decode a really fascinating framework designed by Dr. Mike Tang. We're going to dive into his masterclass on navigating Singapore's enterprise support schemes, which is perfectly titled Diagnosis Before Disbursement. Trust me, we are about to completely reframe how you think about business funding. Okay, let's dive into this. It's a pretty striking paradox, isn't it? Singapore has this incredibly comprehensive enterprise support architecture. I mean, we are talking billions of dollars and tens of thousands of companies assisted. But despite this massive availability of grants, in 2024, Singapore saw a record 307 compulsory liquidations. That is a massive spike in insolvencies. So you have to ask, how is it possible that with so much money floating around, so many companies are still hitting a brick wall? Well, the answer actually lies in how we approach the funding itself.
To answer that, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The government grant trap. 2. Symptoms versus root causes. 3. The complement principle. 4. Anatomy of a business. And finally, 5. The prime rule.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the government grant trap. There is a massive contrast between two distinct mindsets when it comes to funding. The first is a really dangerous trap. People see a grant for, say, digitalization, and they immediately think, hey, what can we digitalize to get this money? They literally construct a project just to fit the funding. That is a solution looking for a problem. Now, the second mindset, and honestly the only way that ensures long-term survival, is a problem looking for a solution. You start by saying, okay, our margin has dropped 6 points. Then you diagnose exactly why. Only after that do you go out and find the funding that actually fits that specific diagnosis. Both of those companies might get their grants approved, sure, but fast forward 18 months, and only the second company is actually better off. The thing is, doing it the wrong way is incredibly seductive. It's what decision scientists call availability bias. When you're a business owner and you know a specific grant is just sitting there, its mere availability totally warps your perception of what's actually wrong with your business. The funding literally influences your diagnosis. And to make matters worse, in the standard grant process, the consultant, the bank, the assessor, nobody is actually getting paid to challenge your premise and ask if you're fixing the right problem. Which brings us nicely to Section 2, symptoms versus root causes. $2.95 billion. Just let that staggeringly huge number sink in for a second. This figure represents the liabilities of HiFlux when it ultimately faced liquidation. Now, while they definitely weren't an SME, their highly documented failure gives us a crystal clear, massive, real-world example of misdiagnosis in action. So what actually happened with them? HiFlux secured a major tender at a price where the plant would be operating at a loss. When the banks took a look and refused to back the model, they just pivoted and raised capital from retail investors instead. They basically mistook a Pillar 4 business model problem for a Pillar 1 financial health problem. Raising capital just solves a funding constraint. It does absolutely zero to repair a business model that is structurally bleeding money. Treating the wrong problem really just buys you time, and it buys it at a compounding, truly devastating cost. And this is exactly why we have to treat struggling businesses just like we'd treat a sick patient. Professor Philip Kotler actually notes this regarding Dr. Tang's clinical framework. He says using medical analogies prescribes effective and easy-to-administer turnaround techniques in the right doses. Think about it. You wouldn't put a Band-Aid on a failing heart, right? You absolutely have to diagnose the actual illness before you start writing prescriptions. Let's move straight into Section 3, the complement principle. Let's look at how this builds into a really concrete clinical sequence for treating a distressed company. You don't just dive headfirst into surgery. First, you start with triage, diagnosing the issue and stopping the bleeding. Then comes surgery, cutting out what's actively killing the patient. Next is resuscitation, getting those vital functions back online. And finally, nursing, rebuilding strength and keeping a close eye out for relapses. Order is totally crucial here. Trying to do culture work while you are hemorrhaging cash is going to fail, just like cost-cutting fails if your core business model is fundamentally broken. Now, the absolute core of this entire framework is the complement principle. The 22 AI apps and the government grants, they do not compete with each other, they complement each other perfectly. The apps ask what is actually wrong, and they generate the baseline evidence. Oh, and they're free. The government grants ask, how do we pay to fix it, and provide the actual money? It's like the apps pinpoint the exact target, and the grants supply the ammunition. Honestly, neither works properly without the other. On to Section 4, Anatomy of a Business. I love this part. Dr. Tang's framework breaks down the 8 pillars of a business by mapping them directly onto human anatomy. So, your financial health is your bloodstream. Operational excellence, those are your muscles. Leadership is the heart, and the business model is your DNA. By scanning all 8 pillars at the same time, the AI translates all these complex, interconnected business dysfunctions into a really clean, easy-to-read map. But here's the best part. Each of these pillars links directly to specific government funding lanes. So a pillar score isn't just a diagnosis, it's literally your exact routing instruction for which scheme you need to apply for. And listen, getting this right is about to become way more critical than ever before. Sometime in the second half of 2026, Singapore is transitioning several of its major grants into a single consolidated EDGE scheme. Under the old grant structure, things actually acted as sort of an accidental diagnostic tool. You'd look at the categories, like automation or financial management, and you basically just picked one. But EDGE is activity-based. It's wiping out those specific categories entirely. So what does this all mean? The crucial point is this. Without those old grant categories acting as an accidental checklist for you, your problem statement now carries all the weight. The new EDGE scheme requires you to arrive already knowing exactly what is wrong. Self-diagnosis isn't just some happy byproduct of filling out a form anymore, it is a strict prerequisite. If you don't bring your own diagnostic evidence to the table, your application is literally going to crumble. Finally, let's look at Section 5, the prime rule. Here are the rapid-fire tenets you absolutely must remember once you've got your diagnosis. The prime rule is simple. AI diagnoses, humans implement. These AI tools pinpoint the issue for absolutely free, but they don't do the actual surgery. They don't carry any money, they aren't claimable on a grant, and they definitely do not execute or project manage. You have to take that clear, evidence-based diagnosis and go hire a human specialist to do the heavy lifting. The apps don't replace the grants at all. They just make your grant application infinitely stronger and ensure the money actually works harder for you. Oh, and here is a totally surprising but absolutely vital detail for when you do go to hire that human specialist. If you're seeking enterprise development grant support for your management consultancy costs, you have to ensure your consultant holds TR 43-2015 or SS 680-2021 certification. Taking 5 minutes to check their accreditation number is crucial. If you skip this step, there's no way around it. You risk losing the entire consultancy fee because it just won't be claimable. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge, a final provocative thought. Before you even think about opening up another grant portal, ask yourself right now, can you state in one single sentence, with a concrete number attached, what is actually wrong with your company? Because if you can't, don't apply for the cure just yet. Run your business through a whole-body scan, find the true root cause, and then, and only then, seek the disbursement. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep learning.